Okay, so welcome to this 10-minute follow-along workout for older skaters. Skaters usually roughly around over 40. My name's Dan Spinks. I own the Anti-Fragile Skater, which is a platform, an app for older skaters in particular to help look after their joints a little bit more, improve their fitness a little bit more so they can keep skating, keep moving better, feeling better and keep rolling. So this is a simple follow through. I'm going to post these weekly on the YouTubes. Something for you to follow along with. You don't need any equipment for these, nothing at all. And each week they'll be a little bit different, but it's taken out of my daily programming from my app, which is programmed Monday to Saturday, 6 days a week. The types of workouts change monthly, so they never get boring. There's a gym variation, which is 30 minutes and under. There's an at-home variation, which is 10 minutes and under with no equipment, which is what this one is today. So 3 movements, repeated over 10 minutes. Today's session in particular is about being light, is about being bouncy, is about kind of flowing, a little bit of mobility. So you're going to get your heart rate up a little bit, you're probably going to sweat a little bit, but you should never be out of breath with this. If any of the movements cause any sharp pains, stop, regress the movement. If they're just a bit uncomfortable, it's okay to work through. Think of a pain scale of 1 to 10. Think of a 3 to 4 being okay. Any more than that, stop, or any sharp pain. So I got my timer here ready. 3 movements for you to follow along with. Off we go. So the first movement is our inchworm to hip rotation. So you're just going to let your head hang, let your arms hang, very relaxed. Feel your back round over, feel the backs of your legs, kind of the muscles there. Walk out. Drop the front leg, tilt, rotate over. Walk back up. So that's 1. Then on the other leg this time, roll down. We're doing 4 of these. This time the other leg goes over, pivot over, back into a press-up position, walk back. So we're getting lots of movement here through the neck, the head, the spine. We're learning to relax everything, stretching off the backs of the legs and the hamstrings, walking out, a little bit of shoulder stability, opening the hips with the rotation. And we're trying to make this flow and feel as smooth as possible. So 1 more, roll down, head, arms, spine. Remember, we're changing the leg that sits in front each time. 4 of those, hands back up. Next movement, pogo hops. These want to be super relaxed. So arms loose or on your hips, whichever you prefer. 20 reps. Again, quite simple. Don't jump too high, nice and relaxed. So on to the third movement, which is our step backs with a reach. So 2 step backs equals 1 rep, because I'm stepping back with my right leg and I'm reaching opposite side with my right arm, so my hip is pushing out. And then stepping back with the same leg and reaching with the other arm and hip moves that way. So that's 1. Reach and push. There's 2. Again, don't force any of this. And notice when you're doing it, what feels stiff and tight. You'll notice, depending on which arm you reach with, you'll feel it somewhere slightly different. Front foot stays flat. I think that's 6. Again, as you start to warm up, 1 more on this side. you should be able to reach further. So now the other leg's going to step back in the same principle. Step back with the left leg, remember, hip pushes out. Step back with the same leg, hip pushes out. I feel much stiffer on this side than on the other side. And the steps are quite small to start with. As you get better and more confident in this, the steps can look and feel more like lunges, but at the minute, it's just working on the reach and the hip push. So we're trying to get some lateral flexion and movement through the spine, some length with the reach, and loading the hips in both directions, that way and that way. I think that's 7, probably lost count. Just think as we get older, which we all know, we just get stiffer and tighter. And as much as I think stretching is really useful, it doesn't fix everything. It feels nice when you're doing it, but unless you hold this each stretch for a minimum of 2 minutes, every time you do it, you're not going to make a huge lot of difference. So movements like this are really good. So that's 1 round. Back to our rolls. Head, shoulders, hang down, feel the stretch of the backs of the legs. Walk all the way out, drop the leg, rotate, back into a plank, walk back up, roll back up, down. So now other leg goes out in front. So this time it's my left leg out in front, pivot over, heels stay where they are on the floor, into a plank, roll back up. So this rolling part is pretty important because we're trying to get movement through our spine. One of the reasons we get very stiff and robotic as we get older is particularly when it comes to spinal movement, and there's a lot of fear behind it. A lot of people, and I used to be one of these, that we need to brace our spine all the time. Strong core, brace our spine. If our spine was meant to be braced, why does it have so many joints in it? So on to our pogo jumps. Loose. Onto our steps. I'll go from a different angle this time. Reach and step. That's 1. Push that hip out to the side. Reach in the opposite direction, but keep the foot flat on that front leg. Don't let that foot tilt either side. Try not to hold your breath through any of this as well. If you're really stiff and tight, you might find that when you do one of these, you might go, just notice that. Try and relax, keep the breathing easy. One more. Reach, push the hip out. Reach, push the hip out. Swap legs. And I feel this leg much more on the inside of my thigh, the groin area. This is my pushing leg. And goofy. So my right leg, which is the leg obviously I stand on my board with, tends to be a bit stiffer and tighter because it's stabilising. And the back leg, through the pushing, goes through a very particular range of motion and might lack availability in other movements and positions. Reach and push out. Reach and push out. So really try and reach up and over. One more. So that's 2 full rounds. Back into the rolls, head, shoulders, spine, let the head hang, walk it out, drop down, keep the heels where they are, pivot over, use your hands if you need to, back to the push-up, roll back up again, all the way up, and back down. Knee down, heels stay where they are, pivot across, open up the hips. These flowing, more mobility type movements, for most of us, going to help more than just doing static stretches, even though static stretches can be useful. If you're anything like me, I find them pretty boring. Even though I know they do good, I'm less likely to do them if I just don't like doing them. I much prefer this. I'm getting that little bit of joint mobility, I'm getting some blood flow around my whole body, and I just feel a bit better after them. Onto the pogos, so again, light. Imagine your whole body's made of rubber. One of the reasons we start to feel kind of slow and robotic and heavy is we stop jumping and bouncing. Think when you're younger, if you go out skating, you might end up doing hundreds, if not thousands of ollies. So you're constantly jumping, landing, impact. And as we get older, we just do it less. And the less we do it, the harder it feels when we then want to do it. Our body isn't primed, prepped, or used to doing it. Your nervous system's one goal is self-preservation. Okay, we're going to come up to the 10-minute mark. So we're just going to finish off this section, and that's going to be 3 full rounds. The idea for these sessions is you just feel better at the end than you did at the start. Think of it a bit more like slightly more dynamic yoga. I think yoga's great, but the one thing yoga misses out on is strength. Good for joint mobility, good for stretching, but strength, impact, it's the one thing it misses out on. And when you reach over, let the other arm almost reach down towards the floor as well. And that will give you a bit more movement. Open up this whole side whilst closing off the other side. Think of all the movements you can end up in when you're skating. You never really know what positions you're going to end up in. So almost testing all these different angles, reaches, rotations, bends, flexes. Last one. Awesome. So there, I'm not breathing heavy, I'm a bit warmer. I feel a lot better now at the end of that than I did at the start. And that whole session of these mobility, movement, flowing rhythm sessions are all about that at the end. It should feel like a really long warm-up, but a nice thing to do at the end of the day. So yeah, first one done. Be posting things like this once a week, and the sessions will be different every week. There might be a strength one, there might be a more conditioning one, but like I said, no equipment needed. We might use our boards now and again, but the whole reason and point of me doing this is I'm trying to bring good quality strength, fitness, mobility training to older skaters who arguably need it. Because we all get to that stage, age catches up with all of us. We start losing mobility, strength, power and speed particularly, and fitness as we get older, and skating just starts to feel like less fun because we don't feel like we can get as much out of it as we used to. We're never going to skate like we did in our teens or our 20s, but that doesn't mean we should just only ever skate curbs for the rest of our lives. Still want to challenge ourselves, still want to try new things, learn new tricks, push ourselves a little bit, but your body has to be ready for that, which is what I'm trying to put out there. So if you enjoyed this or got any questions, pop it in the comments below. If you want to follow my daily programming, the app, there's a link to my app below as well. There's a free 7-day trial. But older skaters, to keep skating, you've got to start looking after yourself a little bit. Catch you on the next one.